Whenever you're on shaky ground, you have to keep going. But oh my God, is it hard? And especially when you're on shaky ground in multiple areas of your life, you really have to keep going. I get it. It's really difficult. I myself have been on a little bit of shaky ground in multiple areas of my life. And one of the big areas is surrounding this podcast. And if you were here last week, you know that my trademark acceptance was clawed back. And so now I'm sort of facing this, potentially needing to come up with a new name. And within that, do I come up with a slightly different concept? It's more of just like this intuitive nudge of this needs to become a new version of what it is now. And so, as I'm navigating through this shaky ground, I really want to document the process because, I'm trying to thread the needle of a bunch of different things in my life right now. And to me, documentation is so, so important because as I'm going through this journey of transformation, I know that the second I get to the other side of this transformation and I get to the end destination or whatever checkpoint I'm trying to get to, I know that I'm going to forget about all the little micro moments that led me up to that point. It's crazy. I've been thinking about how my life is right now is how I once dreamed of it being. I once dreamed of having these problems because it meant that I would be where I am today, which is just crazy to think about. But when I think about the time that I was in before this, when I was unemployed, burnt out, having no motivation, having zero direction in life in general, I knew that I would get to the other side, but now, me sitting here being way on the other side of that, I forget about the little things that happened that were a key part of the transformation. And part of me wishes I would have documented more in that phase just to even help other people. I feel so far removed from that version of myself. I think it's so important for us to sit back, really understand where we are right now. And the way to do that, especially when we're facing all sorts of shakiness, is to rest. Sit back, rest, relax, and allow yourself to zoom out and almost look at things from a bird's eye view. And I think that's how you're going to get to new perspectives. And I think that's how the hidden things are going to come to life. That's how the things that felt so hard at one time suddenly feel easy or doable. Or the things that you didn't feel like you had a full view of are suddenly completely in view. It's that sort of thing. And what I've been finding is that most of that really comes by resting. So I put on my linen set today because I needed the most relaxed fabric there was to get myself back into this state of rest. And really what I want to do in this episode today is just that. Let's sit back, let's relax, let's rest, and allow our minds to think about how we thread the needle of our life in order to get ourselves to where we want to go. The needle I'm trying to thread in my life right now is building a podcast while working in a corporate job, while not burning out, while maintaining clear skin, maintaining my health in general, getting rest, also allowing myself to go at things full blast and be relentless, and then also in the background of all of that, I'm doing subconscious reprogramming work, I'm doing inner child and shadow work. And so my mind is going a mile a minute pretty much every second of the day. And even when I'm sleeping, like I've been having crazy dreams lately just as I've been doing subconscious reprogramming work. And like sleep is really, in the sleep state is when my brain is sort of processing the healing that's coming from that and sort of like recategorizing things. And my brain is just on overdrive. And so I'm finding myself really having to take a step back and like, let me just rest and like go on a walk and not think about anything. And, you know, as I've been in this restful state, things are coming forward that I didn't necessarily see before. And, you know, it's almost like questions that come forward and I'm like, whoa, I had never thought about that before. And now I can no longer go back to the way I was thinking about it previously. The first question that comes forward for me when I'm like sitting in a restful state or on a walk, not really doing anything, not listening to anything, just existing. The first question that comes forward is, what am I giving the most airtime to? Now, this question stems from something that I saw on Pinterest where it was like, if a stranger looked at your life, what would they think your priorities are? The way I interpreted that is, okay, so if a stranger were to look at a video of my life, no audio. If they saw me every single day of the week, they would probably be able to assume that I was equally prioritizing building a podcast and working in a corporate job and maintaining my health and maintaining clear skin, you know, like all of those. They would probably be able to see that it's about equal, which is probably how it needs to be, at least in this moment of time. You know, I'm facing a lot of changes that need to be made in the podcast, and I'm in this building phase and bringing it to life. And then also my corporate job is like the opposite of chill. And so there's a lot of things that people need from me every second of the day. And so it's very much go, go, go. So I can't necessarily deprioritize that. So that's if a stranger were to look at a video of my life. And, you know, I think it's worth mentioning, I've made great progress in that. You know, if I were to look at myself this time last year, if a stranger looked at a video of my life, they would think that my corporate job freaking ran the show. You know, like it was just so much work that in time being dedicated to that. Now, if we come back to present day, if I flip that question a little bit and I ask myself, if a stranger were to only be able to hear an audio track of my life, what would they think my priorities are? Now, this one gets interesting. The answer to that is they would think that all I care about is working a corporate job and maintaining clear skin. You know, and, you know, going to yoga, working out, like that sort of thing. And this is where I've really been checking myself, because as I've been doing this subconscious reprogramming work through To Be Magnetic, like I have been thinking a lot about what are the small things that I'm doing that reinforce to me and subconsciously are reinforcing the fact that like I feel like I need to be in a corporate job. And when I think about the conversations that I have, you know, I'm more so talking about conversations outside of the workplace here, but when I think about the conversations with friends outside of work and family, most of the stuff I talk about is the corporate job. And it's really, I find it so difficult because it's like, by me only talking about the corporate job, I'm reinforcing to myself, to my subconscious, that this is where I want to be. And I'm not necessarily reprogramming in real time to get myself beyond this phase. And if I really am honest with myself and ask myself, why is this the main thing that I talk about around friends outside of work and family? It's that, I don't know if they could handle or accept anything that's not a corporate job. And I don't know what their sort of capacity is to hold that sort of vision. And so I find it very difficult to know when to bring things up and not. But as I've really been like sitting with this question, I'm almost like, I think I'm coming to the conclusion of, I just have to start talking about this. Like, I have to start being very clear and upfront with the thing that matters most to me right now, and that's building this podcast. And I literally just have to talk about it until I'm blue in the face and like not give a shit about what other people think. But, I think I know that that's gonna almost be a muscle that I have to build. But that's really just what's been coming up for me. And, sort of along the same lines of like, what am I talking about to other people? When we're trying to make a change, when we're trying to go from one worldview to another. So in this case, it's like, how do I go from a worldview of, having to be in a corporate job to a worldview of like, I can build whatever I want to build and make money from that? The second question that comes up for me, as I sit back and relax and rest, like, the question that then comes up is, how can I talk myself into doing the things that I really want to do? And almost like sweet talk myself in a way to where I'm not forcing myself to add all this other stuff onto my plate, but it's like a delicate dance to get myself to do the things that I really want to do while not burning out. And the way I think about this is, I go back to the time when I had to take, a year and a half off of work to recover from burnout. In that time, I was doing a lot of research and learning around this framework of human design and really learning about what my human design archetype is, because within that, I think it's a great tool for us to understand for ourselves, how do we use our energy and how can we replenish our energy? How can we expend our energy in the most aligned way? What's the optimal way to manage our energy? And for me, my human design is a manifesting generator. And so with that, you have to do what lights you up. Let's say I'm doing something that does not light me up. My energy is leaking out of me. It's like there's a giant hole in the bottom of a canoe and I'm just like taking on water and I'm sinking. And the emotion that comes up with that, they say like your not self emotion for manifesting generators is frustration. And I deeply feel that. When I'm doing something that straight up does not light me up, I'm so frustrated. Now, if I'm doing something that lights me up, if I'm like, oh my God, I'm in the flow, I could do this for hours, I lose track of time, oh my God, this is the best thing ever, my energy is just getting refueled. And in that, the emotion behind that of like, okay, this is a sign that I'm on the right path, is a feeling of satisfaction. What's interesting about this time for me, so this was, human design has been something that I've been working with for the past several years. But what's interesting about this time is it's helping me talk myself into doing the things that I want to do, because I know that my corporate job drains my energy. This isn't lighting me up. And I think for many of us who work in a corporate job, we aren't necessarily lit up by what we're doing on a day-to-day basis. And so I've been finding lately that during the workday, it's like my energy is going down, 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 down. Then I hit 5 p.m. Maybe I take like an hour break. Then I start working on my podcast. And then my energy is going up, 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 up. And by the end of the night, like I'm feeling re-energized. And, I even had a moment last week where it was like I stayed up so late working on the podcast. And even though I was so exhausted from the workday, by the time I was going to bed, I was like, oh my God, I'm so satisfied. I could do this forever. Like, imagine if I could just only dedicate my time to this. It was that sort of thing. And so in those moments of feeling very satisfied, it's almost like I'm clocking to myself of like, okay, this is what happens when we do the things that we really want to do. And so, if there's ever days where I'm like in the workday and I'm like, God, I feel so exhausted, I've been figuring out how to talk myself into like, oh yeah, remember that if I could just get started in hitting record, or in like, let me just pull up the file on my computer to, edit the podcast, my energy will start to rise again. But it has been this really interesting, like over the course of one day, my energy's going super down and then super up. And so when you do that across many days, it's quite exhausting, and it's just brought up this major need to rest. And that's something that I sort of have a little bit of a difficult time doing, because I'm, as a manifesting generator in human design, if you're doing the thing that lights you up, you can go forever doing it. Like, you just have an endless source of energy because you're doing the thing that lights you up. And so, it has been tricky though, having that tension of, okay, so much of my time is being placed in this area where it's not lighting me up. But, as I talk myself through this, I think I've come to a place where it's like, this is just the world that I'm working in. I once dreamed of being in this situation of having to balance all of these different things. Now that I'm just accepting the current world that I'm in, how can I move from here? And how can I sit back and relax and really zoom out and figure out like how to move the different chess pieces of my life, even just from an energy perspective, in order to get myself to have the sort of output that I want to have. And I think rest has been a very helpful tool for me, if anything, in creating space for this more blue sky thinking, and more of like a, let's really figure out, like, if I'm my own puppet master, what are the different moves that I need to make in order to get myself to the other side of this transformation? Another question that then comes to mind is, as we're let's say, you're sitting there and you're tracking along and you're like, oh my God, I can think of a bunch of different things that I'm also trying to, thread the needle on in my life. A bunch of different competing things. Maybe one totally drains your energy, another pours back into you. The other question that then comes to mind, at least for me, is like, well, how are our habits supporting us as we're going through these shakeups or this shaky ground? I have some pretty clear habits for myself, one of which is every Friday I go to a yoga class, every Friday afternoon. It's the clear distinction between my work week and my weekend. It's like, okay, Friday, late afternoon, this is the end of the work week and we're going into the weekend. And, it's this sort of habit that I think has really been helping me find balance. And, as we're going through these shakeups, and for me, I've really just been wanting to lean on this habit of yoga, of let me just go move my body, clear my mind for a little bit, sweat my ass off, like it's sort of like a detoxification. The fascinating thing and question that I've been asking myself, though, is what exactly about this habit is refueling me so much? And I'm finding that it's way more than just going to yoga every Friday. And the reason why I've realized this is because the yoga teacher that I've been going to for like 5 years straight, she recently left the studio that I go to. And I would really only ever go to her classes. Like, I loved her teaching style so much. I loved the vibe that she created in the room. I would always go to her power classes. So it's hot yoga, it's power. This is the toughest class. And the room is also the hottest. Well, maybe second hottest. I'm not really sure. It was always like over 100 degrees. And the way this teacher approached the classes, it was always a very clear flow. The activities that you did at the beginning of the class, you slowly built on those core activities in order to build up to this larger flow. And in that, there were different sections of class. And with each section, there would be a different colored light that would be on in the room during that time. So I think we'd start out in green, then yellow, then fuchsia, then red, then blue. And the red portion of class was when we were exerting the most energy. It was like the give it your all period of class before the cool down when the lights would go to blue. She would also be playing Halsey music, like she would joke around, she would push us, she knew everyone in the class. Her approach was different from every other yoga teacher in the studio. And, I didn't necessarily realize that every single detail I just described was part of the habit of me going to yoga. It was part of my Friday afternoon habit. I realized this because the new yoga teacher in her place is the complete opposite in many ways. And not necessarily the opposite, but she's just different. It's a different combination of things. It's different movements that we do during class. It doesn't necessarily build on one movement after another, and it's sort of hard to follow. It's not clearly defined into sections. And the thing that really has been throwing me off is the lighting. I didn't realize how important lighting is. And, basic color psychology, it would make sense that lighting is so important, and you start to associate certain colors of lights with certain activities, especially as somebody who's been going and doing this for 5 years. But as I've, the past couple weeks have been taking these classes from this new teacher, it's fascinating because the lights don't change at a specific cadence. It's not something that you can predict. And when we're at the point of the class, when we're exerting the most, the lights are not red. It's like green, which I'm like, this is what the beginning of class is, it's not. And so, I think last week it was like we were cooling down and the lights are red. And I'm like, no, but you can't have red lights during a cool down. Like and I don't know if that's just because like I majored in graphic design and I know color psychology so deeply, and red is like action and fire and attacking, like that sort of thing. So it's really just been throwing me off. And in this sort of music is not Halsey. I mean, the music is more like things that you could snap your fingers to, which isn't necessarily bad. It's just not the vibe that I want to have. Like, I'm realizing how much I love doing yoga to Halsey. Like, put me in a dark room, sweating my ass off. I want to listen to Halsey. And that is such a specific vibe. And although it's sort of been messing up my habit, it's been such an amazing opportunity for me to sit back and be like, whoa, we are all irreplaceable. Yes, in the corporate world, we're all quite replaceable. But when we're doing something that is so deeply aligned to our souls, and we have the creative freedom to present ourselves and present the activity however we want to present it, each of us bring such a unique combination of likes, interests, vibes, desires, tone. Like, everything is different. No two people are alike. And it's really just been making me realize, like, oh my God, the more that we can pull all of our unique things and package it into one, we will always be irreplaceable. And that's the thing, like, that unique combination of things is what gets people attached to you. That's how people build a habit around you, because they aren't, yes, they're connecting to you, but they're also connecting to like how you show up and connect with them in very micro ways. It's like so many different points of connection within one activity. Like, at face value, it's just going to a yoga class. But holy shit, there's all these other points of connection within that. And that is what makes an experience so powerful. And it's fascinating for me that this is coming up as I'm trying to figure out how to like adjust my podcast. And like, I feel like a new version of it wants to come to life. And, even in just this whole like building this thing of my own, what's fascinating is the yoga teacher that I've been going to for 5 years. Like, she just recently, she left that studio to start her own studio. And it's this very fascinating mirror in my life of just like what I'm experiencing, while also gaining all this knowledge of like, holy shit, like our habits are so much more than what they seem to be at face value. And even in that, I'm finding myself needing to create new habits. I'm like, there's no way in hell I can keep going to this yoga class on Friday afternoons. Like, it's not the thing that I want it to be. It's not doing the thing that it once did for me. So I'm needing to find a new habit for myself and a way to ground. And that's also part of the shakeup that I'm experiencing. Working out and moving my body is definitely something that has always been a habit that I can pretty much stick to. Like, that's the one habit, probably aside from my skincare. Like, I religiously do my skincare. because the last thing I want is for my face to break out again. But I also move my body and work out pretty religiously. And, not overdoing it. I don't work out every single day of the week. That's like past the point of no return for me. It's like I do around 4 to 5 times a week. And, in thinking about that habit, I've built a habit of even like waking up early, working out before work. I've been pushing myself to think about like, okay, well, how can I apply this habit of working out that I'm so good at? Like, no matter what, I never miss a workout. If I schedule a solid core class, I'm there. If I schedule a yoga class, I'm there. And if I tell myself I'm getting up and walking in the morning, I'm there. And it's in these moments where I'm so accountable to myself. And to be honest, I've been trying to think about like, okay, well, how can I apply that to consistency with like posting on TikTok, or consistency in how I show up in a way that's promoting the podcast. It's like things like that where it's like, oh my God, I'm so good at building this habit of consistency in one area of my life. And I just have to figure out how to apply those same principles into this other area, which is around promoting myself. It's around being seen. It's around, putting myself out into the world. And I know that I have to do this because literally now, the weather has been so wonky the past 3 months. And now I associate tornado sirens with the universe telling me that I need to put myself out into the world. And, I did an episode on this about when the tornado hit, which is like how this all came to be. But I now associate tornado sirens with the need to put myself out there. And so, yeah, this is all just, I haven't heard a tornado siren in like a few weeks, but for a while there, for a couple months there, April and May, I was hearing it quite a lot. And so, one night I even had to like eat dinner in my closet because the tornado sirens were going off. And I'm just like, gosh, dang it. Like, all I'm hearing in my head right now is that I need to put myself out there. So this is what I'm going through. This is all just helping me get to an answer on how do I lock the fuck in? How do I just be so focused on what I'm going after? And, I think the beautiful part about all of these shakeups and habits changing and all of that, and resting in that process, is that things become more clear on like what the new version of our lives are. And so I think even though things may feel like shaky ground, it's like, if we can find pockets of stability for ourselves in that through rest, through going on a walk, I think we can start to bring the next version of ourselves to life. But I know that's not much of a glamorous process. And so I just hope if you take anything away from this episode, it's like, first of all, it's great to rest. And resting can be the gateway to figuring out new things, finding new solutions to your problems, or new solutions on how to navigate situations, or maybe even help you see blind spots. And, what was once hidden is coming to light. It's that sort of thing. And so I just hope that even as you're trying to juggle all sorts of things and manage all sorts of different energy, like, I hope you continue to find time to rest for yourself, to pour back into yourself, to take care of yourself. And again, like, thank you so much for being here with me. I think I'm going to continue just leaning hard into this whole like documentation, and especially as I'm bringing this new version of the podcast to life. So thank you so much for being here with me. I hope you have a great week. Take care. Bye.